Hey, what's up, guys? I had a very interesting comment, and I'm very thankful for comments like these, which is a criticism. In fact, I love criticisms even more than compliments. You can compliment my channel. I love that as well, but it's like a true criticism in a way that's constructive and comes from a good place. I really respect. So I respect this criticism, which is this guy commented that I look a lot older than I did 3 years ago. He's been watching my videos, which thank you for following. But I look a lot older than I did 3 years ago, and I actually really agree. And I believe androgens played a big part of that as well. Okay, that's what his main kind of point was and thesis, and I agree with him. Okay, but that's why as I'll mention later in this video, I dialed things back because there is that potential for negative side effects, and how it affects your face is one of them. And when you get feedback from somebody like your mother, especially, that your face doesn't look good, you got to be like worrying, like, okay, maybe this is good constructive feedback, correct? So I've figured things out, I think, since then, and I've dialed shit back. That's one of the main reasons why I've actually dialed compounds back, because not just the way I look, but the health consequences, and how the way you look is just the, you know what I mean, a surface kind of consequence on what's going on otherwise, correct? Okay. So thank you for that feedback. So here's the thing. I'm not a young guy, okay? Maybe, I don't know how old do you think I am, but I'm 42 and a half years old right now, okay? So I am aging. And there's been some stressors in my life in the last year that have contributed to aging, and doing steroids might have been one of them. That's one of the reasons why I dialed shit back, because I noticed the same thing, to be honest. I believe steroids can make you look older, like even with hairline and things. Thank God I still got a hairline, but even that, like, I'm wondering if it's affecting that even. But at the same time, I know youth is temporary. You only have so much of a youth, and I don't want to cling on to youth. And for most of my life, I actually looked way too young. I was like 30 years old looking like I was 19 years old. Okay? Not using this as an excuse or like a justification, but okay, at 40 years old, I look pretty damn good. But before I started steroids, and I agree. When I look back on my old videos, I'm like, it's only 3 years ago. I'm like, shit, right? Voice drop change, different feature changes, etc. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. And that's part of the nature of androgens in general, male characteristics in general. Growing up, even in my 20s and things, I didn't have a full beard, I didn't have full body hair, no, nothing like that. You know what I mean? I think I actually had a discrepancy, or like dysfunction for androgens in some weird reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a pathology or it's just part of genetics and things. There's genetic, just like when you take steroids, like some people have genetically prone to be high aromatization. You know what I mean? Some people respond really well with steroids. Some people don't respond at all with steroids. Okay? It all depends on, there's a lot of factors that are genetic in place. But I think myself, like when I started taking steroids, I knew that I missed out on something. It was like a second puberty that happened. And in that second puberty, I undergone a different change, like a metamorphosis. Okay? And part of that's with my face. But guess what? I'm not here to impress anybody anymore. I got a wife and shit. Well, granted that she stays with me. But at the same time, it depends on what your goals are. If your goals have a pretty young face, then probably it's not the best idea to use steroids or a high amount of androgens in general. But the thing is, if you want to be a pretty boy and you want to be, have the youthfulness and things, it's very hard anyway to maintain youthfulness while having a higher degree of anabolism / androgenic properties. It's just a trade-off. You got to pay to play. You know what I mean? There's a trade-off always in life in that regard. And that's just the reality of the situation. Does that mean I'm fucking ugly now? I don't know. Maybe there's other factors involved, which was sleep, having a wife. All of a sudden, I have a wife for the last 2 years. You know, the stresses involved in that and things. But it is. I think there's a lot of stressors involved, and I think wanted something here because it's not just, how you look is reflective on how you are on the inside, and maybe, you know, there is other factors involved that I'm not taking into consideration. You know, it's not just about how you look, but it's like what's going on the inside, where maybe there are other stressors involved, which is due to cortisol levels by doing blast cycles and such. But to go back to the point that I was making initially, in the last year, I've been doing things a lot more moderately and cautiously. I have added secondary compounds still, so that's not whatever. That's not necessarily super cautious, but my blood work's been fine. I haven't pushed things too hard, and that's the way I think I want to move forward here, because I found a sweet spot which works for me as far as, you know, the performance elements that I'm looking for. And looking good isn't just about having a pretty face, young face, you know. I'm already like 42 years old. Like at 45, 50, 55, like if I lose my hair, if I look like I'm a little bit older than I am, that's fine, you know. I'm okay with that. I accept that. But I want to be dealing with a performance aspect where I go to the gym and I actually can still make gains. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at right now. But this is the type of feedback I actually, as I was saying before, I really respect, because it does make me think. When somebody tells me what I'm doing is wrong, then it makes me think. It's like, okay, well, I'll take that into consideration. So thank you for that. Really. Maybe the other factor, I just seen two guys jogging by me, is I should just incorporate more cardio, because I'm not incorporating enough cardio. I think that may be a factor as well. And maybe my diet in the last year or two hasn't been as great as well. But my blood work's pretty good. Everything else is pretty good. Androgens do make you look older. Like, I've seen some guys who, you know, between 18 and 24 years old on their androgen before and after, they look like they're the difference between 20 and 4 years old. They look older than me, you know what I mean? And I do want to keep my hair. I do want to keep my looks to some degree, obviously. But as far as things go, though, like, you have to pay to play, though. You know what I mean? And by looking, quote, older, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, all my life I looked super young, and I felt chicks always overlooked me, to be honest, because of my youthfulness, which was, you know, good in the long run. It's a good long run game. But like at 25 years old, I look like I'm 18. You know, the chicks my age didn't even pay attention to me. At older times, especially when you had androgens and things, like, why do you think that people in their 20s who take androgens all of a sudden start getting chicks and shit, right? There's a genetic play there as well, which is the older you look and things isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We got some wrinkles here, wrinkles there, whatever. Is what it is. But I have toned things down since maybe, you know what I mean, before I was pushing the limits with steroids before, to be honest. About a year ago. Making great gains, don't get me wrong, but it was a bit too much. And paying attention to things like my diet and sleep and things otherwise will help with it as well. But I come to the acceptance that, you know, come 45 or 50 years old, I'm going to look old. I think I look pretty darn good at my age. I get that all the time. 42 years old, don't I look good? Come on now. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do I look good for 42 years old? I think so. But I agree that I am looking older than I did when I started this channel. And thank you for commenting on that post. And I hope you stick around and comment on more posts, because I like your feedback. Thanks for watching, guys.